If you're like me and work on many different electrical devices or HVAC systems, then you'll definitely want a benchtop power supply unit like you see right here for testing purposes. This unit is a modified version of the one I purchased here for $60. The unmodified version allows you to take 110 or 220 volts AC input and have either a 110 or 220 volt AC output up to 2000 watts, along with dual USB Type A ports. Even though you could take a 110 input or a 220 volt input, I'm only going to be using this one with a 110 volt input. There's a switch on the back that allows you to change between the two inputs, but the cord right here is a 110 plug. To make the unit more useful, you can see that I added a 12 volt DC regulated output that can supply up to 5 amps at this screw post right here, which are banana jack binding posts. Along with this output, I have a 24 volt AC output that can supply up to 2 amps, is ideal for testing HVAC components. At the lower right, you can see that the switch where it was in the previous image of the unmodified version, it has been moved up to this point, and I added this LCD display. The display tells me the input voltage as well as the input current. This fuse holder has a bus fuse inside of it rated 3 amps, and that's connected to the 120 volt input that supplies power to the 12 volt section, the 24 volt section, and the LCD display. This whole thing ended up costing me just under $100 with all the modifications. First, I'd like to show you how well everything works, and after that I'm going to open up the unit and show you the changes that I made. Let's turn it on. You can see that display, 120 volts, that's the input voltage. And if I check over here, it should be double that reading because the 120 is on this side. Keep an eye right over here. Let's go inside here. 236 volts, and that's the same for both of these. Over here we should see a 24 volt output, which is usually a little higher under no load. And you can see the 28.27, which is just fine. And for the 12 volt DC, push over here. You have that regulated 12.2 output. Let me plug in a hairdryer right here, just to show you the current, how it comes up on the display. Okay, off to the side, here's a hairdryer. And that works extremely well. The power that went to the hairdryer is feeding directly through from the receptacle in your workshop. Over here, the power feeds through the transformer, so it's boosted up to that 220 to 240 volt range. When you plug something in on the 220 volt side, the reading that you see here, you're going to divide by 2 because the input current is going to be higher at 120 volts in order to produce that 240 volt output. Over here I have one of those travel irons. Operates on 220 or 110. I'm going to put it right here and plug it in. You can see at 220 we're drawing 6.2, so you know the current that's being used by this iron is right around 3.1 amps. The maximum output for the USB Type A ports is 2.1 amps. Plug that in. And if I push the power on button, you can see the load drawn off of the AC line. 100 milliamps, maybe 200. The port will stop producing power if you exceed 2.1 amps. Over here to demonstrate for 24 volts, I have a relay. And between this terminal and that terminal is the coil. Put one right here. Red and black makes no difference. It's alternating current. You should hear a nice click. Yep. So that's useful. And for the 12 volt output, I'll just connect up a lamp to show you. One over here, put one there, and one over here. And you can see the current at the bottom right, probably around 250 to 300 milliamps. Really useful having these outputs. The one thing that you notice is the no load current for this transformer is extremely low. The reason for that is that this unit does not use the typical EI transformer. EI transformers have around an 85% efficiency, and inside this one is a toroid. The toroid has an efficiency between 90 and 95%. Because of the toroidal transformer, the no-load current is extremely low. You can bet if you were using an EI transformer, you would probably have a half to 1 amp of current being drawn under no load. In case you're wondering how I made the opening for the display as well as the switch, I used a Dremel with a reinforced cutoff wheel and a flat file. To make these holes here, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, I used a unibit. On the rear of the unit you have the AC input, the voltage selection switch, keeping mine to the left for 110. If you want to use this for 220 to 240, you're going to have to change the end of the power cord. Over here is a built-in circuit breaker. And when you look at the top, you can see the screws as well as 2 additional rivets that were added. That's to secure the 24 volt 2 amp transformer. Now before I open up this lid to show you the inside and all the changes that I made, first let me show you what the unmodified version looks like on the inside so you can see a before and after. Here you're looking down inside the unit, you can see the large toroid, and you can see the rear panel with the circuit breaker, the power cord, and the voltage selection switch. And right here you can see the inside of the front panel. Now looking at the inside of the cover, you're going to see right over here is that transformer, the 24 volt. I made this strap to go all the way around to rivet it into the lid. The blue wires have ring connectors connected to the transformer, and it leads all the way over to other ring connectors, which you're going to see in a minute, that ties into the binding post. Over here is the 12 volt 5 amp regulated output switch mode power supply, bonded to the cover using 3M double stick adhesive and some E6000 adhesive. Underneath the heat shrink tubing is a 6.3 amp fuse, and the wire leads all the way over to here with ring connectors that connects up to the binding post. You can see everything is neatly tied together. Every one of these wires can be disconnected. You can see right here, it's a bullet style. Pull that apart, and there's also one for a red wire. That would allow me to take the entire cover off the unit. Looking at the back of the unit, you can see the power cord that comes in right down here at the bottom. The hot wire goes over here to the circuit breaker, which we'll take a look at in a minute. But the neutral wire goes to the center pin or center blade of the voltage selection switch. You can see I tapped into that switch and added this white wire that goes to the front panel. Right over here you can see the hot wire, which is the brown wire, and it's a little smaller than I'd like to see, and the reason why it's smaller is because this is the conductor size that's used in the power cord. So I may increase the gauge of this wire by replacing the power cord in the future. So it goes into this circuit breaker. You see the yellow wire leaving, it's a heavier wire. Right over here is a thermal protector, and I added this. It's a 130C rated. I wanted to make sure that in the event this winding got too hot, the circuit would open up to protect the winding from being damaged. I took the thermal protector, like you see right over here, applied just a little bit of thermal compound on the rear side, pushed it right against the winding, and using this Kapton tape or Kapton tape, pulled it nice and tight against the winding, and added some E6000 adhesive to make sure everything is bonded very tightly against the winding. The wire leaving that thermal protector goes right through the opening of this very small toroid. It's wrapped in very fine wire. This is part of the front panel LCD display. As current flows through the wire, it's going to give off an electromagnetic field that's picked up by the winding on this toroid, and that's going to give us the reading on the LCD display for amps. Right here you can see the opposite side and the taps that are coming off of the toroid. So this winding, the way it's set up, it's one continuous winding, and halfway through the winding, you can see it here, is a tap. So we're operating at 110 volts, the input voltage. So in order to have the transformer work properly, we're going to use the center tap and either leg. And what's going to happen if you go across the full winding, opposite ends I should say, you're going to have 240 volt output. So if you're going to be using a 220 to 240 input, you want to supply that power to the full winding. Now before I made the cuts to install this gauge as well as the switch and drill the holes for these binding posts, and over here for the fuse holder, is I took that round power indicating LED, which turned out to be a neon lamp, and got rid of it. There was no need to have it because when you turn the rocker switch on, it automatically illuminates. For the display module, you can see there's a green connector right here. The green connector is your AC input that you want to monitor the voltage, and the other side, in the exact same spot, is going to be a blue connector, and you're going to connect the blue connector to the two wires that lead to the current sensor. Now if you look at the switch, the power comes in to the bottom of the switch. When the switch is turned on, power jumps up to this point here, and then it goes directly to this fuse holder. This connector here winds all the way around, and it supplies power to that gauge, as well as the transformer and switch mode power supply for the 12 volt output. The neutral for the transformer and 12 volt power supply goes right here, straight up into the cover, and you can see it goes down, and the neutral also goes over here, and then the neutral goes where I showed you in the beginning, right over to the switch. And you can see I put some E6000 sealant to ensure that everything is locked in position and will not fall out. I suggest you do that if you make this modification. Each one of the binding posts, you can see the two blue wires. There's a ring terminal, and the same thing over here. There's a brown and a brown tied onto these posts, leading to the 12 volt power supply. The only purpose for the wire on this side right here is to complete the circuit, so when the switch is on the on position, the internal lamp can come on. It'll have the full circuit from the hot to the neutral. Making these modifications is really not that difficult. It's just a little time consuming, making all the crimp connections, soldering everything with the heat shrink, and cutting the holes. And guys, that is it. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, be sure to rate thumbs up and share. Thanks for watching.